Hey, welcome back to 5-Point Logic, where we analyze what the Cowboys are doing, why they're doing it, and what they could do to get better. Why can we do that? Because we're very good fans. We're rabid fans. I'm a psychologist during the day, and so a lot of the stuff that I see is a different eye. Still the same kind of fan that you are. The thing is, so this is a new channel. I had to take down the other channel. It was kind of shared. So this is all new content, but we're going to look at things the same way we always have, and that is taking down what we see behaviorally, what we see the repetitive patterns, and just like we did during the Jason Garrett era, that we could see, hey, this is falling apart, and this is what they could do to get better. And you're like, whoa, you're not the coach, you're not corrupt. Guess who's not a coach either? Jason Garrett. Let's just go back for a second. Just right, before you turn this off, you go, this is with Jason Garrett, we don't need to hear that again. Facts, okay? He was not, going back to even in college, he was kind of brought in through nepotism to his role as a quarterback. Joining the Cowboys, he was urged because of his father and to be put on the team, to give it a try. I think that he eventually, he's a very good camp director, a very good historian. So he memorized a lot of the stuff that Norv Turner did. He wasn't a very good quarterback. He had that one game in Green Bay. Other than that, you couldn't rely on him. So, but he memorized a lot of the stuff. So he's like an actor who has a brilliant script writer, and he memorized everything. Now, if you have an actor who's a doctor who plays one on TV, and he has all the medical terms memorized, and he can have great conversation, would you want him during surgery? No. Same thing with Jason. And what did we find out? We found out after a while he couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag. He couldn't come up with a play in the moment. I remember a game against the Steelers, and I think Terrell Owens was so upset because the end of the game was just the same old thing that it was. It was like the previous play. Run it again, execute better. Now, Jason always had a way of having an alibi or an excuse for his play calling. He could say, hey, this play was repetitive, but you need to run it better. They might know what our plays are, just beat your man. Is that going on right now? Is that happening in the NFL right now? Like if you say, all right, Kellen Moore, if Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Stefanski, if any of those guys came in, would they do a better job than you? Yes. They would come in and, well, for one thing, it's a better offense. A West Coast offense is a better offense than the Coryell, and we'll get into that down the road. It's vastly superior, not because I like it, because the record of the Super Bowl winners over the last 25 years is it's Earhart Perkins, and the West Coast offense have dominated. By the way, both of them are predicated on the short pass, not the distance pass, not the ball in the air, but the short pass, high percentage, that's what's winning. Let's go back, though. We'll go back to what we said before. So you had Jason memorized. After a while, he had a ton of support in Dallas, and the way it was set up, he was being groomed to be a coach. Jerry Jones said, we've put a lot of work into him being a coach. We don't want to let him go and let somebody else take advantage of that, right? Never happened. He went to New York halfway through the first year of being an offensive coordinator. This is what he's supposed to be able to do as a coach. He's not a coach. Why it showed? Because Joe Judge was coming into his meetings and saying, this isn't working. Going into the second year, we had some injuries. Of course, having those excuses, all right, what happened? Halfway through the year, they're like, he's not working, goodbye, Jason, and nobody's asking for him. Kellen Moore, same idea. He took Chris Peterson's and Scott Linehan's offense, which, by the way, there are no screen passes like you have with Scott Linehan's offense. And you're not seeing the elaborate formations and all the motion that you have in Chris Peterson. So both those things are not elements of Kellen Moore's offense. Kellen Moore what he does is he's an actor in the same way Jason is. He's taken the script and he said, oh, I can do it. But what he came back with was, well, I've grown up in this offense. I've been drawing up plays since I was 7. It was crayons, right? And a lot of Kellen Moore's stuff is this. Well, pass combinations. We'll trick them. We'll get them downfield. Even if we complete one pass downfield, it'll push the defense back because they won't want to give up the long pass. They won't be able to run underneath. Now, to an owner or a GM, that sounds great. The Coryell offense has this deceptive temptation to it. Because it's very easy to learn. It's very easy to start getting yards downfield because you don't understand the tendencies. If you're a defense, you're like, wait, what's going on? These guys are immediately running downfield. They're getting open. It's timing patterns, that sort of thing. Until you experience over time, go, oh, I figured it out. After 5 yards, most of the routes are taken care of. Now there's only like 4 left they can run. After like 9 yards, there's only 1 they can run. We'll spread out the cover 2, we'll put in zone, and we'll shut down the timing-based part of this. And that's important. Why? Because a timing-based offense, the problem with it is that if the defense knows what the routes are, they can run into the spot, a la Keith Brooking with way back with Atlanta, and a la Luke Kuechly when he picked off 2 of Romo's passes way back when Carolina was playing Dallas. I know you guys all remember this. We've talked about this before. That it was so absurd. Luke Kuechly said, here's the play, I'm going to run. He ran back there. Who had to run the route by himself? Witten did. And Kuechly just moved himself back to where the pass was and caught it. So it's a weak offense. But what Kellen does is says, oh, well, if I could do route combinations, I'll put him over there, and this guy will come over here and go this way, and they won't be able to handle it. Because what he says, I'm creating chaos. The problem is he never acknowledges that it's an intelligent defense who's constantly changing and has figured out what he's going to do. So the defense comes in and goes, that's great. While you're running 10, 11 yards downfield before you throw the ball, we will overload the line and come after and kill your quarterback. That's what's going on. How do we know that? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, if you go back and look at the statistics for last year, the CeeDee Lamb and the major Dallas, the primary receivers for Dallas weren't being targeted until 10 and 11 yards. Targeted, okay? Go back to West Coast off. Go back to Deebo Samuels. Where was he being targeted? 8 yards. Where are the majority of the Rams being targeted? 8 yards. The only one that wasn't was Jefferson. Why? Because he ran like 4.3 speed. You have to have speed to have the Coryell offense. Who said that? Don Coryell did. And Landon McCool, by the way, you're wrong. They're not the same offenses. You can't have a West Coast offense and a Coryell offense and say, well, it's just different terms. Who said that? Bill Walsh and Don Coryell actually had a conversation about that and said, Don Coryell said, I need a specific speed, deep receiver, very hard-nosed runner who's going to get yards by himself in a straightforward run game a la Chuck Muncie. I have to have speed downfield or it's not going to work. Bill Walsh said, I don't have that kind of player, so I have to make high percentage passes, get the ball out into the skill position players' hands, and get blockers to get downfield. That's what's working right now. That's what the last 25 years of the Super Bowl has been dominated by. Even when there was a Coryell offensive coordinator, let's see, Jim Caldwell took over for Cam Cameron with the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens halfway through the season was not working. And Jim Caldwell took over, right? Because they fired Cam Cameron because he's running the offense like Kellen is running Dallas's offense right now. Let's go to what Bruce Arians is considered. No risk it, no biscuit. He's considered also one of those, a Coryell. The problem was halfway through the season with Tom Brady, Tom's like, this isn't going to work. We're 7-5. He said, you got to come to me. So he built in this basic short pass offense, eliminating a lot of the Coryell concepts that were taking too long to develop downfield, really putting things at risk, and not winning. That's the thing. Not since Peyton's Colts or Warner's Rams have you really had a pure Coryell offense do anything. In fact, in 2020, there were 11 offensive coordinators that were fired. 10 of them were Coryell. You look at Schottenheimer, who right now is the eyes of Dallas, taking over the Ben McAdoo position up in the booth, right? And he's looking down. Schottenheimer was fired from the Seahawks after posting huge numbers in yards and a lot of things, but falling into the same. If you take out the paragraph of why Schottenheimer was fired and replace it with Kellen Moore, it makes sense. It's the same thing. They say philosophical differences, but he doesn't have anything creative. Why? Because after a while, this was a shot at when Linehan was on the Rams. Same thing, same 4 plays over and over. Why? Because it's limited if you're not doing anything with personnel, if you're not doing anything with the running game that's really drawing the defense in, then downfield, everything starts to be the same, and you're thinking, if I can just get farther downfield, if I can just make things happen in more of a distance, which always puts the quarterback at risk, increases numbers of interceptions, increases the number of 3 and outs. Now, you're probably thinking, how are you saying that? Where are you saying that? Don Coryell said it. He said, I don't care about interceptions. I don't care about incompletions. Keep throwing the ball downfield. That's what Kellen is. That's what he's predicated a lot of things on. Now, again, he's not a coach. I think in a lot of ways, he's like a 7-year-old drawing things up. What really bothers me is the word creative. Creative, if you're going to be creative as a football coordinator, whether offense and defense, you have to be effective. The creativity is really only manifest or creative if it works, if there's a gain, if the defense is fooled. That doesn't mean you have 3 guys running in the backfield, running all around like that silliness in that what is that, the Bengals game that was, or whatever that was. Oh, he's creative. No, it's not creative. That's stupid. It could have just been a running play when the whole stadium thought it was going to be a pass play. You remember in 2016, there were these plays, and it was really plays to protect Dak. But there were times where the Dallas running plays were fooling the cameramen to the point where Zeke's running this way, the camera's going this way, and they fooled the cameraman. That's the kind of thing that's creative. When you don't know what's coming. Jason Garrett didn't believe in deception. Well, he's not a coach. I don't think Kellen's a coach either. Let's go back to, he's a QB coach. Really? Because Dak was sacked, Dak was sacked 25 times in 2016, 32 times in 2017. Do you know how many times he was sacked in 2018 when Kellen took over as QB coach? 56. There was a 9.6% chance that Dak was going to be sacked if he attempted a pass in 2018. What was Kellen's only role? Decision-making. Mechanical decision-making, mental decision-making, analyzing defense decision-making, when to release the ball, posture, all that stuff. Being able to express what the play was, govern it's all decision-making. That's what a QB coach does. And Kellen not only failed, he put him at risk. There was like 347 yards or 374 yards or something like that of being sacked. Now you can't say, wow, those numbers you're giving me. 25, he was sacked 25 times in 2016, 32 times 2017, 56. You know what we're going to do? We're going to promote you. Does that make any sense? Now, what I hear, what Mike Fish reporting here, you hear Mike Fisher saying, well, it's told to me that Kellen Moore is the smartest man in the room. Yeah, so is Jason. Being a historian and using long words, Jerry seems to be enamored by this, like he's somehow getting the Tom Landry. Tom Landry did not. He was a man of few words. So is like Bill Belichick. So these guys, they're all up here. They're all cerebral. Intentionally cerebral. Why do we know that? Because of the results. Not because of what they say. Jason's like, each and every day, we're going to give it our 24-hour, 365-day commitment to being better with scratch and claw. He's come up with these football camp mottos and T-shirts and stuff like that, but he's not producing. That's the thing. So Kellen Moore is going into these conference rooms and having these meetings and stuff, and Jerry's like, Kellen Moore is a very cerebral football player. He's a cerebral football player. Whatever. It doesn't show. He looks like a moron. It's not working. Mainly because the statistics are off. Let me ask you something. How long does it take a receiver at the combine, a basic average receiver, to run 10 yards in shorts? 1.6 seconds, right? All right. Now, put in game fatigue, put full uniform, and human obstacles. How long does it take now to run? Almost 3.2 seconds, okay? Now, Kellen is requiring his receivers, before they're even targeted, to run with game fatigue down. Now, they're not fast receivers. I mean, really, these receivers are very talented with the ball in their hands. It should be West Coast. Get the ball in their hands, get them downfield, get blocking. But Kellen doesn't do that because he is more enamored with this idea of downward downfield vertical passing. Why? Because he's not a coach. He's just memorized some stuff from Chris Peterson and Scott Linehan. He's memorized some Don Coryell stuff, but he's not a coach. And one of the things that really stood out, and you see this with Kellen, and you saw this with Jason, I remember Chris Collinsworth saying, the whole middle of the field is open. Why isn't Jason doing anything? And we've seen this over and over. The whole middle of the field, Kellen is sending everybody downfield. Look, 10, 15 yards. And if you just set somebody across the middle of the field and get him the ball, it changes everything. It brings the defense in. Get him on a slant. Go back to that. Go back to that game. It was 2020, I think. Dallas beat the Eagles 37-17. It's strange because if you watch the game, the camera never shows Kellen Moore calling plays. It shows Mike McCarthy, West Coast offense. What happens during that game? Immediate passes right off the line, slants, and Dallas was eating the Eagles alive. Why? Because that's the modern offense. The modern offense is lateral. It's moving quickly. Deebo Samuel, like the Rams, the Patriots have been doing it for years. It's not to say there aren't downfield passes, but you have to have enough going on that the defense pauses at the line of scrimmage for a run, for a quick pass, and says, we have to watch out for that first. We're afraid of that. Then you send somebody deep. It opens it up. But if the whole defense is back in a zone going, come to us, we know where you're going to throw, then it's wrong. And if you're an offensive coordinator and you haven't seen that and done anything about it, you're not a coordinator. It's called synecurism. You just have a role on the team. You're getting paid. Let me ask you this, though, in closing this first one. I know it's a long one here. Dan Quinn is not only a coach, he's an offensive coordinator. He's down on the field showing each of his players how to play, getting to know all their skill, and he creates a defense based on that, right? When have you seen Kellen or Jason Garrett on the field coaching their players? Let's keep going, though. What has Dan Quinn done to the defense? Well, he's corrected. He's solved it. He keeps adjusting during games. Nope, not Jason and not Kellen, the adjustment thing. But here's the biggest key. What he's done is he's stocked the defense. He knows the defense cannot be just one layer of starters. So he has depth because he's thought ahead, because he's a coach. What's our biggest need on offense right now? We have no depth. We have a couple of players, and if they get injured, that's it. That's not on Dan Quinn's defense, though, is it? Because Dan is a coach. Kellen is a fraud. And after a while, Kellen will go back to John Gruden's QB camp, where he's like, yeah, Kellen is something else. He's something else. He did not even buy him as a starting QB or any sort of QB in the NFL. And the more he talked to him, you could just see that John Gruden was not buying that Kellen was anything more than a former college player who had great success but had great coaches. The amount of orchestration that team did, not only in the plays, but even the teams they played, made Kellen succeed. But it wasn't Kellen himself. But Kellen is wrecking our team right now, wrecking our chances in the same way Jason did. Jason wrecked our chances. Romo should have had at least 3 rings. Easy. And I think he knows it. We've had the defense last year that led the league in turnovers, giving the ball to the offense to go 3 and out. You can't tell me Landon McCool. You can't tell me Rabble Rouser. You can't tell me Mike Fish, Mickey Spagnolas of the world. That's good. That's lame. That's poor. That's not a coach. That's not helping a team. Now, if you want to wear the jersey and pretend that you're fans and stuff and say, don't speak anything against me. No. This is the problem. If you're allowing something to go on, the same thing over and over and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. And you don't need a psychologist to tell you that. You know that. 5-point logic out.